expectations from the outside really don't matter, because it's what you internalize and it's what you absorb. Those are the things that really make a difference.
Well, there certainly are expectations for the Hoosiers. Of course, Indiana #1 in both major preseason polls. If you got your Sports Illustrated this week, you saw the Hoosiers on the cover, the #1 team there as well with Cody Zeller. They tip off Friday night right here, 8 Eastern time on BTN. They'll take on Bryant, one of 9 Big Ten teams starting play on Friday. Let's welcome in our Big Ten Network basketball analyst Jimmy Jackson to break down some of these games with us. And Jimmy, let's start with IU, not necessarily the game against Bryant, but again, your expectations for this Hoosiers team and what we should look for here in the non-conference.
Well, Dave, after watching this team practice, and I think we touched on this last week on the preview shows, the talent is there. There's no question. You're talking about the returning starters with Sheehy, Jordan Halls, Christian Walford, of course, the big fella in the middle, Cody Zeller. Victor Oladipo. The question is not, can this team score points? You add in, great freshman class with Kevin Yoga, Farrell. You put that point guard back up in there. The question is, defensively, are they going to get better? And this is what you're going to see early on from this Indiana team. If they're ready to go, if they're ready to play, if they're dialed in and focused, the first place you'll see it is on the defensive end of the court. Deflection, steals, blocking out, rebounding, in the passing lanes, making it tough for their opponent, in particular in the non-conference season, because this team hasn't really won anything yet. So they still have to prove some things, and how you do that is you go out in the non-conference schedule and you just dominate your opponents.
Yeah, you mentioned not having won anything. I mean, they did make the Sweet 16 last year, but that was the first time they'd gotten out of the first round of the NCAA tournament since 2002. So it's been a while since Indiana's been good. As I mentioned, 9 teams play tomorrow night. In fact, the only ones that don't play, Nebraska, Northwestern, and Wisconsin. So let's run through a few of the other high-profile teams that will be in action. Michigan State has this interesting game in Germany. They'll take on UConn, who obviously is not as highly touted as they have been in the past, but 2 good programs. I know Michigan State fans very interested in the health of Brandon Dawson and in the impact that the freshman Gary Harris can make. Based on what you saw in practice, what do you think?
Well, here's the thing. And Brandon Dawson, by all accounts, is back. People always say, well, can you get back to 100%? Well, if you play this game long enough, you're never 100%. He's shown thus far that he's been able to bounce back. He still has that explosive ability, that athleticism that a lot of times you'll see may get lost with an injury like he's had, but this young man has dedicated himself to getting back. But also you talk about Gary Harris. He has a big body, 6'4", 205, athletic, one of those kind of guards that you envision there at Michigan State. He can handle the ball. He can make plays. So you add that to a dimension of what this team already has, with the keep appling at the point. What you don't have is kind of that marquee player. I tell you, keep your eye on Adrian Payne. I think this is the year that he kind of steps into that role of being more of a leader, but I think his game is starting to catch up. His maturity is there. He's a game changer at 6'10", 240.
Of course, they lost their heart and soul in Draymond Green. Ohio State lost its best player as well, and Jared Sullinger. They have a neat game as well on Friday night as they play in Charleston Harbor in South Carolina, the Carrier Classic against Marquette. How do they replace Jared Sullinger?
But I both know you just don't replace a guy like Jared. He comes along, once every 5 or 6, 7 years if you're lucky. But you do it by committee. You have a good core group of young men that are returning. Aaron Craft, Deshaun. Deshaun is coming back, but also Linzel Smith. Okay, you look at that and you say, okay, how can we build around what we already have in place? And then you look at some of the young freshmen or sophomores now, Shannon Scott, who had an excellent summer, who the coaching staff said took a tremendous leap. But Sam Thompson also taking that tremendously. Amir Williams getting better. Or 2 things you're deficient in this year if you're Ohio State. 1, a pure post-up player, but a consistent three-point shooting threat. You don't have that. So you make that up with great half-court defense, you rebound, and you figure out ways to score easy baskets.
As you and I know, they always figure out a way under Thad Matta. 7 straight 20-win seasons, longest active streak in the Big Ten. I know you've got your first game coming up next week, Indiana against Sam Houston. Looking forward to that one, Jimmy, and of course looking forward to another great season. Our 6th season together here in studio for BTN. Should be a lot of fun.
Oh, we have a great time, Dave. I look forward to it.
All right, fantastic. That is Jimmy Jackson. We will talk to you next week. Thanks, Jimmy.
All right, my man. Later.